Welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of When We Become Men. This is going to be a special episode because I actually have some familial ties here. Mr. Dupree Foster. Uh, and so what he's pretty much is going to talk to us about. I kind of thought about entitling this "The Purpose Pusher" because, as we spoke before, that really seemed to be what you align with. You align with inspiring, pushing people to purpose, and
Mhm.
really just trying to be like a conduit for change for them and their own lives and kind of empowering them. So I thought that would be a great title for this episode. And so, what would you say if you could just give a little bit about your background and how you inspire people and push them towards their purpose?
Yeah. So growing up, I think the biggest distinction with me is I've always had a dream of what I want to do in life
Mm,
since 3 years old, and I actually followed through and did that. And I've been doing it for 13 years now. And one of the things I've noticed when I was growing up, and now that I interact with people trying to help them get their career started, that a lot of people don't really know what they want to do, or they had an inkling of what they want to do when they were a kid, or they've been told by their parents or someone in their life that, hey, you should do this or you should do that. And they kind of like let their actual dreams kind of go by the wayside. So for me, since I was three, I've always wanted to be a police officer. And it's the wildest thing because I didn't have any family members that were directly in law enforcement. No one like directly close to my family, like in the military or anything. But I was raised with parents who we didn't have a whole lot growing up from a rural area,
mm,
but I was raised with parents who I saw do things for other people without anything in return, but also being on that receiving side, being helped. I remember power being off, or I remember one time it was a winter snowstorm that came through. And I was about 7 years old. It was me, my mom, my sister, who's about 2 years older than me,
mm,
and the power went out due to the snowstorm. And I remember me, my mom, my sister were inside the house, and we were the only ones having to be home at the time. It was cold, because
yeah,
the power's out and the heat's out. The nice thing though, we had a wood stove,
yeah,
but you got to have some wood in a wood stove to light it up.
yeah.
We didn't have any wood, and I remember at this young age, and it's funny because I think back to it, how me, my mom, my sister were kind of getting together, trying to stay warm. And I remember kind of praying, like, for someone to help us, like, God, help turn the power back on, something. And all of a sudden, there was a knock at the front door. And
Mm,
again, this is nighttime, the power is out, it's
yeah.
snowing. So I remember walking to the door. My mom, she opens the door, and it's our neighbor with a wheelbarrow full of fresh cut wood.
Mm,
And he comes in the house, he lit the fire, whatnot, and he left and went back home. And just those glimpses of life and how people help other people
yeah.
is pretty amazing. And so I think early on God kind of gave me, although there were challenging times, I look back on those things, they
Mm,
really shaped the way I am with understanding other people's journey, and
yeah.
also knowing that just because the lifestyle that you live, or maybe the circumstances that you're in, the environment that you're in right now,
Mm,
doesn't fully dictate where you're going to go. And so when I go and I speak at colleges and stuff like that, I usually use my story of wanting to be a police officer for a long time. The challenging parts of that, I used to be very quiet, very shy. And so I got to a point in high school where I was like, this doesn't really align with my purpose. It doesn't align with what I feel like I'm called to do.
right.
And so I started looking into personal development and learning how to, get out of my shell, basically,
Yeah.
better, body language, and talking with people and not fearing rejection and things like that. And when I started implementing those things, it was amazing how life just kind of started to change.
Yeah.
And so I try to give that back to other people. I think the biggest thing when I see people and hear people, even like older people who are older than me,
Mhm.
um, everyone has unique purpose within them. Yeah, I think everyone's here for a reason. Like you have a specific reason for how you're supposed to serve, your talents, your gifts, your skills that you have to help people.
Mhm.
But again, I think a lot of times we kind of cover it up
Yeah.
because of what other people think and those types of things. So it's kind of just using that, my story, and using that to help inspire other people to do their own purpose, not be like me, but what
Yeah.
is it that they need to do to reach their potential in life?
Yeah. I think that's fantastic because it's like God instilled these things in you beforehand, but you wouldn't really see them kind of come to a lot of fruition until later on in life. And
Mhm.
so obviously, the characteristics of being of service to other people was instilled in you from a young age from those experiences, people helping you out. It was
Hmm.
demonstrated to you. But when was the moment, as far as it comes like career wise, where you felt like, was it one turning point where you felt like, oh, God's telling me I need to move now? Or was it kind of a transitional thing where you said, hey, always wanted to be a police officer. I've been that for some time, but like at this point, God is telling me I need to go into public speaking and being a coach and just helping people in that way. What was like that turning point like?
Yeah, that's no one's ever asked me that question,
Yeah.
and that's a really good question, Danny. So let me think. So always wanted to do public safety. So I think more so, I know like in high school, people kind of one off and would connect with me about different challenges they were having in life and that type of thing. I think it was more so once I was a police officer for a little while.
Hmm.
Before law enforcement, actually, I'm still certified as an EMT, but so I served in the rescue squad for a long time. Started doing that when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But seeing the challenges that people deal with, and then being a police officer as well, and responding to calls and dealing with people who seemingly good people, just
Yeah.
having like challenges in life, and a big part of it is that mindset piece. So I can't remember a specific age, but I think it's more so a probably couple years into being a police officer.
Hmm.
I think so. I was about 23, 24, maybe, where I really started saying, hey, this is what I want to start doing. But it wasn't till about the last 3 years or so that I've really started to like fully get more into it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's kind of been there as an inkling of, hey, this is kind of what I like to do. But it's so weird though, because and I tell people now, like, and I say I teach classes and stuff, they're like, I can't believe, like, I know
Yeah.
you say that you terrified to speak and all this stuff, but you're just like
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I'm like, it's a journey, like, because I
Yeah.
identified something and had to work on it.
Yeah.
And so that's the neat thing too, is having a growth mindset and realizing that we can change,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's very it's illuminating in that sense, like how, those changes can occur. Because I'm not gonna say who this is. I don't want to put their business out there, but it's a close family member to me, and they're much older than me, and they're trying to get more into social media. And they were telling me how, like, they were kind of comparing themselves, and like it was shocking to me
Hmm.
because I'm like, you're the most confident person
Right.
I've
Yeah.
ever met, but you feel like you're comparing yourself on social media, so and like thinking like, oh, what are people gonna think about me? Like, but in real life, you speak to everyone. You're like the life of the party, pretty much. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting how, you can have that kinda, like, disposition and people can really, like, shift in those areas. Um, one thing you were one thing you really spoke about that I identified with is pretty much being a kid and, uh, everyone's telling you what you should do and you thinking what you should do, and,
Hmm.
like, how you operate in that versus, like, "What is God calling me to do?" Is there a point where you were rejecting what God was calling you to do, or were you pretty much always invested in that?
So with the whole public safety field, it's
Mhm,
kind of interesting, right? So there's a lot of people, and being a recruiter for an agency now, I speak with a lot of people who say they wanted to be a police officer and those types of things. Um, so growing up, I've always had, and it's really since three, like it's been, I don't know why, but it's been like calling for me to do it. My
mhm.
family members have always been supportive of it.
Yeah,
Parents have never said, "No, don't do that." I would say like it's dangerous, get a desk job, things of that nature. But
yeah.
um, always been supported. But growing up, I did things such as, let's see, when I was about
Mhm.
10 years old, my dad bought me a police scanner. So I could
Yeah.
start listening to like police calls and learning how they talk on the radio, those types of things. At 12, I
Mhm.
started hanging out at a rescue squad. So for me, I knew, hey, this is what I want to do. And for me, it was just a timing issue, right? Because I had to be at least 21 to be
Yeah.
sworn in. And so I knew growing up, hey, what can I do to get closer to it as I'm moving along?
Mhm.
And so, getting the scanner, learn how to talk on the radio and what types of calls they really respond to. 12 years old, my parents separated when I was I guess about 12 years old,
Mhm.
about 10 or 12. And so I moved with my grandparents, but they actually lived near a rescue squad.
Okay.
And so I used to go to this rescue squad, and I used to hang out there when I was 12. I would help wash trucks and clean the station.
Yeah.
When I was 13, they started like taking me to parades with them, and when I was 14. I actually went on a few calls with them. Got my EMT certification when I was 16. They paid for it,
Wow.
which is great, you know. And
Yeah.
so doing all those things kind of helped me because that was the closest thing I could do in public safety
Yeah.
towards law enforcement, you know.
Mhm.
And I remember in middle school, about to go to high school, the counselors from high school came and they're like, "Hey, you about to go to high school? Let's kind of figure out what classes you want to take." I remember telling the guidance counselor, "Whatever class that'll help me become a police officer." And she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we don't have any police classes,
Yeah.
but ROTC." So I did Navy or junior ROTC in high school, which was great. So everything I did was kind of like lining up towards like the public
Yeah.
safety field.
Right.
And believe it or not, like I back in the day, I used to say, I don't care if I get married, I don't
Yeah.
care if I have kids, I
Yeah.
don't care about going to college. I just want to be a cop. But I was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, I'm going to graduate high school before I'm 21. So I was like, I might as well go to college. And so I got a degree in criminal justice.
Yeah.
And same year I graduated college, went and started the police academy. But
Wow.
no, it's always been a straight moment of wanting to do that. I think more
Mhm.
so, Daniel, to be honest with you, the part of not fully diving into God's calling is what we're talking about now, right? The whole like speaking and like in pouring into people's lives.
Right. Yeah.
And ministry has kind of been a thought too.
Right.
In that type of speaking part, I've given some sermons at some churches and things like that, but haven't fully dived into that.
Yeah. That's excellent. That's awesome. And so what would you say when you are going to a speaking engagement, what are the things that you are like hoping that are you what are you hoping that the people get out of it? What are you hoping the audience takes away from it that when they walk out of there after you've spoken, what are you hoping that like, are the next steps in their life?
Yeah. So three things. So one is going to be that first off, they're not alone. So a
Right.
big part that I've realized for a lot of people who are either speakers or high ranking people, if you will, right, in the community, so like judges and pastors, things of that nature. A lot of people think that they are perfect people, right? They're on this
Yeah.
pedestal. You can't do things or you can't be as good as them or that type of thing. So I always like to put something in there where it's like you're not alone, right?
Mhm.
Trying to share a little bit of my story of, hey, this is some of the challenges I've dealt with. You can
Mhm.
be this person. I love the college setting because for me, that's a lot of challenges and transformational times during my college years as well.
Yeah.
So speaking to college students, kind of understanding that. So one is you're not alone. The
Mhm.
other part is you've got a great purpose within you,
Yeah.
right? That you have to be confident enough to know that, hey, this is what you want. You can't go and ask. I can't tell you what you should be
Right.
doing,
Yeah.
but I can help guide you. But you fully more so know what's been instilled upon you,
Mhm.
your purpose and what you're supposed to be doing. And then lastly, that part of going out there and being kind to other people,
Right.
right? Because you're not perfect. I'm not perfect.
Right.
The more that we can be honest with ourselves about our shortcomings and as much as possible share those with other people, the more we can connect with others. So I remember just recently when I spoke at a college, one of the things I was sharing about them in the class was that, hey, who in here knows everyone in the class? And a lot of times when we know people or we work with people or we have people that we go to school with, or sometimes even church, like we know people at the surface level,
Mhm.
we never take time to actually connect.
Yeah.
And so I remember speaking, and it was part of a diversity, equity, and inclusion type of training I was doing, a workshop
Mhm.
for some leaders on a campus. And one of the little short workshop things I did for them, partnering up, was, hey, get together with someone. I had some questions on the PowerPoint for them to ask. I'm like, you might know most of the people in here,
Yeah.
but let's get some deeper questions, kind of connect. And the thing behind that was for them to realize that, hey, we have a lot more in common than we thought we did.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't realize that we have assumptions about each other, those types of things. But
Yeah.
really, those three things, right? You're not alone.
Mhm.
Your purpose, make sure you kind of develop your purpose, and it's okay to go with what you think you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And then being kind to people, knowing that when no one's perfect, you're not, I'm not,
Right.
and give some people some grace and mercy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's awesome, and those are great in so many different avenues of life, but especially when you're like trying to walk into your calling and your purpose. Cause I know one thing you said I thought was really good was you can't tell someone like what their purpose is and everything, but it may be your job to help empower them to
Hmm.
pursue it for themselves. Cause I
Yeah.
know for myself, when I first started like videography, I would compare myself to other people like, oh, I'm not like them, I'm not there yet. But I was like 6 months into something, comparing myself to someone that was 10 years into something.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
first of all, that's not even a level playing field. So second of all, like what the God has poured into me is not going to look like what God has poured into them. And
Yeah.
so, it's it's basketball and football. Like it's two different things. It may be the same
Hmm.
career choice, but the style, the way you work, the clientele you approach, it's different. And so yeah, I think that's really, really great advice. What have you one thing you said about kindness, and also see your shirt says service, it kind of started making me think,
Hmm.
um, how have you felt that, because I saw one of your posts, you were talking about the Go Giver book, and it's about pouring into others and
Hmm.
serving them. So how do you feel like servitude is not only good for the receiver, but the person who is serving as well?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So my whole life is about service. And so that my shirt is about my core values, love, acceptance, service, and kindness. And service. So that when you serve, we directly help that other person. Like for most part, right? We're helping them, whether we're giving them something, giving them a ride, whatever we're doing to help them. But naturally in our minds, though, it gives us a sense of joy and happiness as well, because we are meant to serve and connect with other people.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times in life when we are maybe down or don't feel as motivated or energized is because we're not serving enough, or we're not serving at the level that we're supposed to be serving, or like in on the proper field that we're supposed to be serving in.
Right.
So for me, I give you my whole life, right? So it's been, man, it's been over 20 years now that I've been in public safety. Going all the knowledge I've gained from serving other people, a lot of it volunteer, but then
Mhm.
moving into the paid and then professional career part in law enforcement, a lot of it, I've gained a lot of experience and knowledge from seeing other people's lives, how
Mhm.
they have challenges and those types of things. So when you go and help someone else, it's not always about how much money you're getting,
Yeah.
but there's other things that are not tangible that cannot actually see.
Right.
But it shaped my perspective, and I think it's allowed me to be a little more open minded and accepting of other people, people who are not like me. Because in public safety, we don't get to pick and choose who we serve or when we serve, right? And someone calls
Yeah.
for help, we go out and we help them.
Right.
And so I think that's been the biggest part, is realizing that you're going to get more from serving other people. And also it helps with your own skills and talents, right? The more
Yeah.
you use your skills to serve other people, the better you get. So it's this accumulation effect that kind of adds up.
Right. Yeah. I think that's great. I was an ambassador in college where I like served others, and it was interesting because as a kid you feel like having to do stuff and do chores. A lot of times
Hmm.
you don't really want to do that. You're like, I don't want to do this stuff,
Yep.
but I think sometimes maybe it takes some maturing to realize like you actually get genuine joy from getting to help someone, to from getting to serve someone else.
Hmm.
I think it's kind of something like innate God has placed in us, because even Jesus was saying, I came to serve, not to be served. And if
Yeah.
anyone is supposed to be served, it should be Jesus. But to say he's coming to serve, like it's a part of like who we're made to be of service to others in some way,
Hmm.
even in like, our different careers or whatever. In some way, we're supposed to help someone else. Um, and what I really like about what you do is that you're not meeting a just like one tangible need, which is great. Like, and you provide like when people provide like food and water and things like that. But when you empower someone with certain characteristics, that's something that can really carry them, you know 40, 50 years into the future, and they can
Yeah.
continue to pour that into other people. So I really
Hmm.
think there's so much value in something that is intangible, but it's a characteristic that you can pour into someone, because that's something that just continues to go on and on. It doesn't have to stop.
Yeah, that is so true, Daniel. You talked about earlier about how even older people sometimes will compare themselves to other people,
Right.
you know, and it brought up something I thought about. There's a guy, I went to this training one time for work,
Mhm.
and some guy from another state came and did this special training for us. And it was like a 3-day training. And on the third day, I felt like something was kind of off with the guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I get these like these promptings from God to like, hey, talk to this guy, like just
Yeah.
check on him. Hey, how you doing? And so after class was done, we all took like a picture, and all the students were leaving. He was about to walk back inside the building to clean up his classroom. And I got in my car and I was like, I gotta go talk to him.
Yeah.
God wouldn't let me leave without like going to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
And so I walked back in with him, and I'm like, hey, how you doing, man? I'm doing all right. I was like, how do you think the class went? I just asked him, like, how do you think the class went?
Mhm.
And as we're walking down the hallway to the classroom, and he's like, it's not, it really wasn't my best. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, why do you say that? And we chit chatted for a little while. And we went in the classroom, we sat down, and he was like, I feel like I still feel like I'm that 10-year-old hall boy. And meanwhile, this guy's in his mid 50s.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, when I was 10 years old, my teacher used to always push my desk out into the hallway because I was always, acting up.
Mm.
I'm like, wow. And it's like this dude is in his mid 50s, but this something from when he was 10 years old is still following
Right.
him. And so food and water ain't gonna help fix that, right?
Yeah,
But someone
absolutely.
to mentally connect with him and say, oh wow. And so I listened some more to him, and he was like, yeah, my mom actually just recently passed away a few
Mm.
months ago. And so again, those types of things, the more we can understand and connect with someone. When I see someone doing something wrong, even as a police officer, I'm
Mhm.
like, it's not them. Right.
Right.
There's something about, you know what I mean? Something about their situation or whatnot that has led them to be this way or do what they've done.
Right.
And so it's hard to realize that, we all have challenges, those types of things, compare ourselves to other people. But
Mhm.
I think if we just be a little more open minded about what people are dealing with, obviously, we can't just let everything go by. There's consequences for actions, even says in the
Right.
Bible.
Absolutely.
But of course, having mercy for people and having more of an understanding that, again, no one's perfect. Sometimes we
Absolutely.
all have bad days and stuff like that. But I just thought it was interesting, again, because he was older, but he was
Yeah.
still kind of trapped by this 10-year-old challenge that he dealt with, which is
Yeah.
pretty. It kind of blew my mind that
Yeah.
that he would that would be something that still kind of bothers him. So
Yeah. I think that's, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's a reminder that, like, the phrase that time heals all wounds isn't
mhm.
necessarily true, because it's
Yeah.
people, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s that are still that little kid, that got their desk put out into the hallway. And I think,
Hmm.
like, I've been doing therapy for like a little over a year now, and it's been fantastic. And one of the things therapists say, and it feels cheesy when people say it, but they say, like, oh, speak to your inner child. And it sounds weird,
Yeah.
but what they're really telling you to say is, say, what do you wish you would have heard as a kid that would have made you feel better, or made you feel more confident, or would have
Hmm.
helped you as a kid? And so I think that's great that you were able to kind of talk to him and break stuff down. And it's really a mark of what you said earlier, that kindness, just being able to be kind to someone goes a long way. Just being able to open up to him, and he's able to be vulnerable with you right then. And
Hmm.
so that opens up an opportunity for healing. And so it's like this small thing that God wanted you to do. Well, it might have seemed small at the time, like, hey, just like
Hmm.
talk to him, ask him what's going on. It created like this ripple effect. Now you know about what happened in his past, and now he's been opening up to someone. And so,
Yeah.
you could have been a part of you were part of hopefully what is a healing journey for him. Now that he's
Hmm.
recognized it, he can be like, I need to work through this. I need to get through this. And so, yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Somebody recognizes and somebody cares. Like those are
Right.
two big things in life that people um we kind of downplay, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to show care and compassion for someone. And so I think that can make a big difference in someone's life.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So as of today's date, how long have you been professionally doing like public speaking and coaching? How long has this journey been?
Yep. So professionally as an actual business, it's only been about a year.
Hmm.
So overall, so I've spoken at some different churches, colleges, those types of things. A lot of my speaking
Hmm.
originally came from work, from my position at the police department. So as a recruiter, I get to speak a lot at colleges and those types of things, go to employer panels for military bases. But on my own, I've done like different churches, separate from work,
Yeah.
but more so now focusing more so into the whole public speaking part of it. And it really comes down to it too, and just like you mentioned earlier, you were saying about getting into your videography and
Right.
then comparing yourself to other people. And so it's hard.
Yeah.
Like naturally that happens for me too, where it's like you want to get started, you want to do what you want to do. You see other great people doing things already.
Mhm.
And naturally we compare ourselves to what we see now, but they had a journey as well, just like us. And
Right.
so I'm in those early stages of really making it more of a professional type of business type of thing for me, and not just a something connected to work.
Yeah.
Because I think once it's a little more separated, I can more dive deeper into the purpose of more of what I should be speaking on. If that makes sense.
Right. That totally makes sense. And I love how something I just picked up from what you were saying, how it started kind of from you being a police officer. Like God is preparing you for things that you don't even realize yet that he's going to be
Hmm.
to later. And sometimes we can feel like life is just passing us by, like we're not moving towards anything.
Yeah.
And part of that feeling can be because we're not in our purpose, but there are also times where we're not recognizing, we just can't see everything that he does. We don't see like why he has us in that position, but he
Hmm.
realizes, yeah, but like in 2 years, this is going to be really helpful for you because you're going to have the experience to do this. You had all this practice, and now
Yeah.
you're going to be able to connect with people really easily because you were a recruiter for all these years, and
Hmm.
that experience proved to be really valuable in this new avenue that you're in.
Yeah, and I mean that's so amazing. I think about a lot about my childhood. Like my parents used to, they didn't get along very well, right? Used to tear up the house and stuff.
Mhm.
So a lot of like trauma, drama, that type of stuff growing up. And I remember being a kid, like, man, why does life have to be this way and those types of things? But then serving as a police officer, when I respond to homes where
Yeah,
children are dealing with challenges and stuff, I think I'm a little more empathetic because I understand the perspective of what they're dealing with a little bit. And so it's like now I can appreciate all of my challenges, like growing up and those types of things, because it helps me connect with people better and understand people better. But you're right. Like right now, as of today, there's things that we're dealing with we may not understand, but it's all part of the plan that God has
yeah,
lined up for us. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's awesome. Well, I've been checking the time. I don't want to get abruptly cut off by by Zoom.
There you
Um,
go.
but yeah, essentially to kind of wrap things up, it's fantastic to see what you're doing and pushing people to purpose and really trying to focusing on the youth because you also realize like they're next up in terms of generation. So I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. And I wish you continued success after just a year. Seeing what you've done is spectacular. So where
Appreciate
can
that.
people like find you if they want to if they want to book you for any of their speaking engagements, or where can they find you?
Yep. So you can find me online at dupreefoster.com, Dupree Foster.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So I've got a lot of connections on LinkedIn who I stay pretty connected with. Or you can send me an email at ask Dupree Foster at gmail.com.
All right, that's awesome. You got any last lasting thoughts? I think I got my maybe one more minute, but any lasting thoughts or anything?
Yeah, no, the biggest thing is like go out there and love people. Serve in your own unique way. Realize that everyone is dealing with different challenges in life, and don't use your energy to talk down other people. Use all of your energy to shine your light brighter, so everyone else can increase their light around you as well. So,
Yeah, that's
all
fantastic.
right,
Thank you so much.
thanks, Daniel. It's been
Yeah,
great, man.
absolutely. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man. I'll talk with you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye bye.